Far Cry 5 is the second game in the series that I've played, with the first being Far Cry 4. I do plan to play 3, which is generally regarded as the best one, but apart from that, I've honestly lost my interest in the series after this game. By no means did I hate it, it was just, I don't know. I'll have to explain. So stick around and let's take a look at Ubisoft's Far Cry 5. To this day, I'm really not sure what made me want this game. One night, I was just really feeling like playing it, so I got it that night when it was on sale and played it straight away in the morning. I remember being excited for a couple hours, and then I was just like, oh, this is just another Far Cry game. Which, all in all, it is. It didn't offer much that was new, but there were a few improvements, I'll admit. It was very similar to 4, apart from things like setting and story. In the end, I did actually like 5 better than 4, excluding a few things. First of all, Pagan Min was a far superior dude to any of the 4 villains in Far Cry 5. All the villains in this game I just kinda wanted to shoot and be done with. There wasn't much depth to them. Pagan Min, on the other hand, was a pretty cool guy. I actually liked him, and he was definitely the most interesting character in that game. Although, the setting I gotta give to Far Cry 5. Apart from that one dream area that I forget the name of in Far Cry 4, the location of Far Cry 5 is actually pretty amazing. Instead of being in some place off in a faraway country, Far Cry 5 is set in Montana, so it actually felt pretty familiar. My view on it might be kinda biased because it reminds me tons of one of my favorite places to visit, the Rocky Mountains in Alberta, Canada. Whenever there were moments of peace, the very realistic graphics were pretty stunning, especially at sunset or sunrise or during a full moon. Then sometimes the peaceful country background music would kick in. I mean, these were just some great moments when they happened. So yes, I really did love the setting of Far Cry 5, and it was probably my favorite thing about the entire game. And disappointingly, that is about the only thing that surprised me that I liked. I don't even know where to start with my complaints. I have a very long list here. Alright, let's begin with the chaos. So another addition that I thought was going to be pretty amazing was the fishing mechanic. While it's involved in a few missions, fishing doesn't really benefit you much, apart from a couple extra dollars. Still, as one who enjoys fishing in real life, I was excited to try it out. Then I did, and whoo boy, there's a lot wrong here. Not only is the actual fishing mechanics kind of sucky and not fun to do, fishing peacefully is literally impossible. First of all, returning from 4, we have animals that are annoying as heck. If you're in range, the animals attack you no matter what. Yippee! Oh, and also, planes fly overhead about every 2 seconds that instantly start shooting and bombing you if they see you. Yippee, you just don't get slow moments. There's always an animal to fight or a random patrol to shoot. Well, some people might enjoy that. After a while, most combat systems aren't that good to last forever, and that's definitely the case with Far Cry 5. Let's move on and discuss the actual combat. So, the shooting is okay. It's nothing special, there's not much depth to the combat other than a few different enemy types. You can throw a few unique grenades, melee weapons were expanded on, which is actually really fun, and that's about it. Just like the recent FPS I reviewed, Fallout 4, I don't like how the cover system and stuff works. The combat is basically shoot a bit, run for cover, shoot some more, done. You can try flanking people or utilizing stealth, but there's really not much benefit to that, except on the harder enemy types. Unlike Fallout 4, at least in the early game, you can't take much damage. Honestly, before you get health upgrades, you die insanely fast. And when I have cool abilities to get with my perk points, I really hate having to upgrade my health instead. So yeah, the shooting is a solid meh, but I must admit, when it's possible, stealth is actually really fun. I'm a big fan of certain stealth types, and this is one of them. The The satisfaction of sweeping through entire outposts without ever being noticed is immeasurable. And with all the new melee weapons, there's tons of new takedowns. I mean, man, some of these are brutal. I personally like the brass knuckles ones the best, like the quick neck snap. But stealth is extremely hard to pull off for an entire mission, so usually I just end up giving up at a certain point and shooting everyone, which is sadly a very viable option in almost every encounter. Ah yes, and if there's one other thing I did enjoy about the combat, it would have to be the weapon variety. There's so many different guns to choose from, and then the majority of those you can customize with extra magazines, paint jobs, suppressors, all sorts of stuff. I just love doing this, and some of the weapons they included were extremely cool. I don't know why, but for some reason I really loved the feel of the P08, and it was probably my favorite gun to use, which is the weird-looking German pistol from World War II, if anyone cares. Anyways, moving on. Even with the great weapon variety comes drawbacks. Sadly, and very annoyingly, you can only carry 4 weapons at a time, and one has to be a sidearm. Why? I mean, honestly, why? You have all these amazing guns to choose from, and then you can only carry 4? It just sucked. So yes, I loved all the different guns, but I barely got to try half of them out due to the limiting inventory and the price of them. And before I forget about the currency, there's microtransactions. This game is just sounding better and better, I'm sure. So the normal currency you get from pretty much everything, but not very much. Things are way too expensive and there's way too much to buy. Apart from the guns, there's also vehicles to buy, which are usually even more expensive. Getting everything in this game would literally take hundreds of hours of grinding, unless you just want to pay actual money. The special currency is these iron bar things, and you can actually find them in-game in safes, but it's super rare. I didn't have enough to buy a single gun at the end of my playthrough. They're definitely not needed, but you should be aware that microtransactions are in the game. Going quickly back to gameplay, companions are back in Far Cry 5, and they're actually expanded on quite a bit. You can effectively command them most of the time, and they're pretty helpful. I barely ever used anyone except sometimes Peaches, the cougar, partially because they're amazing in stealth, and partially because Peaches is the name of my cat. Generally though, companions just instantly shoot everyone and ruin any chance at creeping up on enemies. Let's see, there is multiplayer in this game. I never tried it, but it does exist, and I could see it being pretty fun actually. Oh, and I forgot to say it earlier, but you can also spend money to customize your character. Why would you want to do that in a first-person game? I have no idea, which is why I never spent my money changing my guy. I got a free spacesuit thing that was really neat, and then I just used that. Although there were actually some pretty cool outfits calling out to other Ubisoft games, including one of Peg and Min that I was very tempted to get. Really, they would only be nice in multiplayer though. Alright, so let's talk about the missions and how they work. So the main antagonist of this game is Joseph Seed, this cult leader guy who has 3 main people working under him, each with their own different area of the map. You have to complete missions in each area to gain resistance points, and once you have enough, you can take down the leader of the area. I must admit, this system is very unique, and it lets the player have more choice in where they want to liberate and what missions they want to do. It wasn't my favorite since it got very repetitive after doing it once, but it was still okay. Regarding the actual missions, they were, like the gameplay, okay. Most of them seem to kind of give the illusion of depth and variety, but in the end, they're mostly just shooting, save for a few missions with special cutscenes and everything. Some missions are jokes, others are finding collectibles all over the place, all that stuff. Prepper stashes, a new type of mission, are actually pretty fun. They usually involve puzzles or just doing something wacky like exploring a haunted house. They not only had the best rewards, but were also just fun to experience. With the actual story, I wasn't very invested. I already talked about this, but I didn't care much for the characters. They were boring, the plot was mostly predictable and also boring, and yeah. One thing I must say is that the ending was very weird, like really, really weird. It just left me so empty, thinking what the heck just happened. I won't spoil it, but anyone who's played the game will know what I'm talking about. I personally didn't like it, and I think it was a bad way to conclude all the killing and misery that happened. But hey, Ubisoft wanted a deep ending that subverts expectations and makes you think. So we're getting close to wrapping up this review, but there's still a few things I want to mention. First of all, with all the leveling up and gaining perk points, it's actually pretty weird because some missions require you to have a certain perk, which can be a major inconvenience. And since I haven't discussed it yet, it's about time I give my opinion on vehicles. For the most part, they suck. I would usually find a car or something, drive it until I crash it, and then leave it there and go on foot because it's usually easier. New vehicles include planes and helicopters, one of which is really awful. Planes. Dogfights are laughably bad, and really planes are useless except for getting to a place fast. But landing them is also extremely hard to do, so your best option is to just jump out the side. Helicopters, on the other hand, are probably my favorite vehicles to use. They controlled well and were easy to use to get around and to fight in. Still, the rest kinda sucked, so one good vehicle doesn't make up for that. And finally, the Clutch Nixon challenges can go jump off a cliff. I hate them so much. And yeah, that is all. I don't know what I was expecting, but Far Cry 5 is really just another bland, open-world FPS shooter game for people who want to, well, shoot stuff. I'll give it a C+. And that is all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and please leave a like and comment if you did. I hope to see you guys in another video. Thanks again. Bye.